The documentary is Erwin Olaf, The Legacy by Michiel Van Erp. It is his latest film project, which is being presented at the 39th Montreal International Festival on Film, FIFA, which starts next week. To start, I would like to thank FIFA for inviting me to conduct this conversation with Michiel, and also a heartfelt thank you to McCord Museum to have asked me to be part of this project. So, hello, Michiel Van Erp.
Hello.
You're in Holland?
Yes, I'm at home in Amsterdam.
All right, we're in Montreal at this end. I would like to just start by doing a very rapid overview of who is Michiel Van Erp for our audience who might be less familiar or need some reminding of what you've been up to. So Michiel Van Erp has started his career, in fact, in acting, and has been directing since 1983. His documentary series, Long Live, that dealt with the desires and hopes of the Dutch people, was presented on Dutch television for 7 years and won national and international awards. A Funfair Behind the Dikes in 2007 was his debut with feature documentary and acclaimed in Dutch cinema. In 2011, his international feature documentary, I Am a Woman Now, dealt with the first generation of transsexuals. In 2015, MH17, A Nation's Grief, provided an impressive insight into the impact with the Dutch people of the shooting down of Malaysian Airlines Flight 17. Since 2014, he has won numerous national and international awards for his debut drama, Ramses, that include Nipkow-Shift, I hope I pronounced that correctly, the Prix Europe for European Drama Series. It was nominated for BAFTA in the UK in 2015. Best Director for Best Script of the Year, winner of the DDG Award. He was awarded 3 TV Beldens and a Golden Calf, which is the prestigious Dutch film prize as well for this the Ramses series. His first feature film, Open Seas, released in 2018, was selected to open the Dutch Film Festival and nominated for an impressive 9 Golden Calf Awards. Michiel Van Erp also works as a stage director and co-owns the production company The Family Film and TV. And today we're here to talk about his latest project, Erwin Olaf, The Legacy. So that's quite a road sheet you have. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
I would like to start, I guess, with the end, in fact. I'm going to start my first question with the end of your documentary, Erwin Olaf, The Legacy. In the last sequence, you are at the museum for the vernissage of a retrospective of Erwin Olaf's work. At the end of the evening, you accompany him, in fact, a very exhausted Erwin Olaf, when he retires to a room in the museum to rest. His final words in the documentary are, in fact, to you. And he asks, "Did you enjoy it, Michiel?" And you answer, "It was a lot." And it is a lot. You certainly pack a lot into those 80 minutes of work. What drew you to Erwin Olaf?
Well, actually, I made 10 years ago, I also made a documentary about him. And then he was 50 years old and he was in the prime of his, he still is in the prime of his career, but he was then, his career as an artist, as a photographer went global. So he was totally working international in America, in Japan. And from that documentary, since that documentary, we are sort of friends. And Erwin is, you have to know, here in Holland, he has a sort of a rock and roll star reputation. So he became famous in the 90s as a photographer of nightlife in Amsterdam. There's all the freaks, it was a sort of a he became famous with documenting the people who are not how do you say, not normal, not the usual people, very the dark, the night,
marginal
nudity.
figures of the
Yes,
night.
exactly, yeah. And in the years after the 90s, he became still more. He also photographs our king and queen every year, so he's very in a sort of everybody knows him, and you have to know he is ill. So he has a emphysema, COPD. Is that the right word in English?
Emphysema, and that's the point that is made quite clear throughout the documentary.
Yeah, and I thought, and I heard he had here in Amsterdam at the Rijksmuseum. That's a very famous, world famous museum, and they bought all his work, so in their permanent collection. And I spoke to him and said, "Oh, Erwin, that's very beautiful because you're very ill, and then your work will be there in the museum for hundreds and hundreds of years." Then I thought, what will that mean for him as a person, as an artist? Is he finished? Is this the end of his career? Or and because of the emphysema, he can't work very hard. He can't really hold a camera very long, or he can't walk on stairs. And in the same year I made this documentary, another museum decided to make a very big exhibition with all the pictures of his whole career. And that's where we are at the point you are referring to at the end of the film. There was a big opening, there was royalty, everybody was there. And he had to sit through all the evening. He had put all these chairs around at the other end of the exhibition walls to sit and to rest, because he can't stand up very long. So it was for the audience, he was playing the rock and roll stars. Everybody knows him. But at the other end of the stage, he was very tired and very, it was very heavy for him. And that's why he asked me, what did you think? I said, that's why I said it is a lot. And because we know each other very well, he shares everything with me in the documentary. So it's very personal and very emotional.
And I will get to a question regarding that aspect just in a moment, because it is very intimate. When you decided to do this documentary, so it's the second time you do work on Erwin Olaf. Did you have any attentes, any preconceived ideas of what you were looking for? Especially that you knew him.
Oh, Philippe, that's a very difficult question. For me as a documentary maker, when I start to add a documentary, I never know exactly what I'm looking for, but I'm looking always for a sort of I want to look inside people, in their hearts, in their fears, and I thought I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I know I was looking for the big artist who sort of his world becomes smaller or intenser, and how will he survive? That's a sort of main question. Is that, you understand what I mean?
Yeah, and that is one of what we're left with after viewing this piece is really a sense of courage. There's a tremendous amount of love and courage throughout this work, and which is I mean, quite timely, in fact, with what we're all globally going through these days as well. So that is an aspect that cannot be ignored. In fact, what we're going through and what he's going through, there's a humanity there that strikes certain chords that are very universal, which I found very interesting. If I may, I'll lead into my second question, which is specifically about Erwin Olaf's private space. As we see, he really does allow you into his personal bubble, as we could say. And I'm thinking here of certain of the private moments where he's with his partner, Kevin, For instance, on the boat in New York by the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in the dark room, and I mean in the dark room, there was just the three. How did that work out? It was just the three of you in there, right? I mean, you couldn't have your whole crew in there with the.
No, of course not.
It's
No.
just
Only,
the three of you.
only my DOP is inside, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's these are very, very moving moments and private, and because he's passing on in the dark room, he's passing on his knowledge as a master craftsman to Kevin.
For me, it was the two main characters next to Erwin Olaf in the documentary are Teun, his former lover. He had a relationship with him for 23 years, and Kevin, his new lover, his husband. And now maybe we talk later about Teun.
Yeah.
But Kevin is younger than Erwin, and Erwin thinks, well, wait, maybe when I'm going to die, Kevin has to take care of my legacy, of my art. So he tries to teach Kevin to how to work in a dark room and to print pictures, and so he sort of gives his work knowledge to his partner. And I think that's very beautiful.
Yeah, it is, and he already acknowledges on that boat excursion in New York that Kevin has a very keen photographic eye, which is already something a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
The erotic aspect of some of Erwin Olaf's pictures, and certainly his self-portraits, of course, immediately bring to mind the American photographer Robert Mapplethorpe.
Of course.
Even though it must be emphasized, their work is very different, at least to my eye. I think it's very
it's very different.
It is very different.
Yeah, but the three of them not knew each other. So Erwin and Mapplethorpe met in the 90s, probably, I think. They're sort of connected because Mapplethorpe was often in Amsterdam as well.
Okay. What I particularly appreciate in this relationship that you bring up is how you addressed it. And first, by not avoiding Mapplethorpe, because it would be easy to try and make similarities between their work. So you don't avoid Mapplethorpe. And secondly, by the way, you astutely introduce Mapplethorpe into the picture. I'd like to hear you more on that.
You mean the way because Erwin decided that on this exhibition, also the people who influenced him were also hanging there. You mean that?
No, I mean that you bring him in fact, not through as much through Erwin, but you bring him in through Hans.
Oh, yes.
That's how you introduce Mapplethorpe, and I found that really interesting.
Yeah, but you have to tell the audience who Hans is. So
well, I don't want to. I'm holding back not to give out the whole punchline here because so folks out there, you have to see that. You really have to see this documentary.
No, so Hans van Manen, he's a world famous choreographer, ballet
and collector,
and he was in his past also a photographer. And Hans and Mapplethorpe, they met a lot. And Hans, that's a difficult question. So when Erwin, as a very young boy, he was a journalist, met Hans van Manen to interview him, and he entered the house of Hans, and everywhere he looked, he saw Mapplethorpe for pictures. All the famous photographers were there hanging in that house. And then Erwin thought, oh, maybe I have to be also a photographer. And Hans told him how to use light, how does it work. And Hans and Mapplethorpe were friends. So that's sort of the connection. And Erwin is very dedicated to the people who influenced him in his work. So Hans is a sort of, also in the documentary, sort of an older friend who taught him how to react on theater, how to react on films, what is art, what is beauty, what is not beauty. And he's a sort of a guide into life, was he, for Erwin. And Teun, the boyfriend of Erwin at that time, was also a big influence on him in how to react on art.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This brings me to the aesthetic, in fact. We're here talking about Mapplethorpe, who is known for the aesthetic quality of his photographs. And I'd like to ask you about the aesthetic quality of your documentary, which in fact resonates quite well with the formal approach of Olaf's pictures. I think that aesthetically there are ways of framing, there are ways of working meticulously. And we certainly see that Erwin Olaf is a very meticulous photographer. In fact, he's a photographer who, in my view, doesn't as much take pictures as makes pictures.
Yeah, he creates them. Yeah,
they're constructed.
Yeah,
and you do make a point when you accompany him to the Rijksmuseum of pointing out the importance of painting to him, of in the portrait gallery where he shares the importance of Rembrandt in his own evolution as a painter. Yeah. From your perspective as a visual person, was this part of your strategy to mold with him, or is it?
No, that's very Philippe, for a documentary maker, it's very daring how to react on a photographer. What do you do with your DOP, with your camera? And I sort of thought, well, we are not going to construct the way we are filming. We are with Erwin. We are with a handheld camera, and we follow his emotions and dancing around him and sort of breathing with him. And for me, that's the opposite of how Erwin makes his art, because Erwin constructs everything. So everything you see in the picture is put there. There were big decisions about it, and I thought we sort of grew with him, grow with him, dance with him, around him. That's the way I construct. What I did do is very decided what I wanted to film and what I didn't want to film. So it's sort of I thought everything we I have to look for the right word. What's the English word for that you thought, everything is falling down in my life? We are sort of
everything is crumbling.
Yes, I thought in every scene you have to feel the crumbling. It's more not sort of an aesthetic decision I made, but more a sort of a which is feeling good for me and in the story.
Okay, and in fact, this leads into the next question I have, and you did partially address it, but for you, as an image maker, working with a photographer who is an image maker, it's a bit like we were discussing this off camera just before the interview. You know, you're usually the one conducting the interview.
Yeah.
Now here I am interviewing you.
Yeah.
But interviewing you is not the same for me as if I were to go out on the street and interview someone who doesn't know, was not used to this.
Yeah.
So you working with a visual person, especially a visual person of the quality of Erwin Olaf, who is so meticulous. How did it play in your strategy? How did that influence you in comparison with your other projects when you're filming?
Well, in my other projects, I also construct situations or images and how I like to film people. But with Erwin, that's impossible. But Erwin himself, is a sort of a person that Michael, I trust you. I do everything you want. There are no hidden rules. So he gave me he really trusted me. So and I made use of that, of course. He never told me, oh, no, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to ask this. So he's very honest.
And we sense that. And in comparison with some of your other work, where you're much more present, you as the interviewer.
Yeah, but that's the only way it works. That's only because I have to be there, because he addresses so often to me.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm sort of part in the storytelling.
But I think here and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're much more discreet than in some of your other works, in the sense where your voice is there, but I think there's only one cameo appearance during the burning of the sculpture, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's interesting the way you choose to portray yourself. I think in light of the last image in the generic, I think that's really interesting, the way you're seen at the camera as well. There's an interesting play here of
well, maybe if you know, it's the first time I made a portrait of someone I'm really very close to him. So I thought, okay, I can ask you everything, but we are sort of friends. So it also happened a few times while making the documentary that I had tears in my eyes, because I saw something happening and I'm like, oh my God, I think this is so sad. And Erwin doesn't always see the intensity of the things he is doing, but I see them and I react to it. So it was a very difficult situation, but maybe that's why you say, well, that I'm more further away, and maybe that's the only way I can survive a project like this.
Yeah. How long did it take you to was it 2 years?
No, it's 1 year. It's 1 year.
Okay, in 1 year, to start in 2018, correct? Just before he turned 60.
Yeah, and when he became 60, and it's also the year that he decided he wanted to make one big major project in the USA, but he was very his health didn't really.
That's the Palm Springs project. We see it in the second part of the work. And one of the many elements that hold this whole project together is the way you regularly, in fact, have these sort of temporal throwbacks. In fact, I'm thinking of the last image, which you have, where as the credits are unfolding, we see him leaning over his Hasselblad, which for me very much made me think right away of, in the first part of the work, when he's visiting his mother, you stop on a picture that she has, a black and white picture that she has of him on the wall. It's a young Erwin, and the same pose, leaning on his camera.
Yeah.
One is black and white, the other is color.
Yeah.
This is what
unbelievable, huh? Yeah, it's unbelievable.
The throwbacks.
And it's like when he's visiting his mother, and she has flowers on her table and the tulips, I believe, and they're falling down because they're too old. And further on, months later, he decides to make a short movie of tulips which are falling down. So there are all these images connecting. It's like when he makes this picture of his former lover with the husband of his former lover, and they are sort of like two heads together, the foreheads together, the two men. And later on in Palm Springs, he does the same with two models, two boys who have the same image. But Erwin doesn't really know that that all these things are connected. He didn't tell me that things are connected. So,
and throughout the work, there are indeed, you're talking about the dying tulips. There are many situations where Erwin Olaf has to confront different forms of tragedy, which could, in fact, turn your own work into a tragic portrayal. I'm thinking of when the situation with his mother, his close friend and ex-partner Thun, as you mentioned, and I won't describe it because people have to see this. This is, but the difficult business decisions he has to make, which are part of the reality. You don't think of this with a famous, world famous photographer like him, but it's part of his reality. And of course, his own declining health, which you see gradually, in fact, diminishing throughout the work. And his worries for when he will no longer be there, and what will happen to his corpus of work, and what is he going to leave for his husband, Kevin. Yet, there are a lot of elements that could be trappings for the tragic, and somehow the way you weave this together, you managed to avoid this. I did not come out of viewing this feeling sad. All I saw was courage and light, and of course, Erwin is part of it because he is such a character in himself. But for you, how did you manage to balance that and keep it so fresh?
Maybe it's part of who I am and who I work and how I work and how I relate my filmmaking to my personal life. I'm sort of feel very connected to Erwin's situation. So I'm very busy. I always work very hard. That's the way I am. I'm really in too many projects, too few days in a week. But I'm now 56, so I also know, well, Michael, are you filming in 15 years? What will that be? And I also often wonder what will happen with my work when I'm not there, when I'm dead, and why did I do this all my life? So but I also tell you this with a smile. So that's also the way I look at Erwin. So indeed, his health is declining, and you don't know how he will be in 5 years. I really don't know. But he's also a very positive person.
He is.
And has ideas and has friends and success. But maybe for an artist, it's better not to think about what happens with your work when you're away, because there are always young artists, young people who are also filming and making things, and that's also very beautiful. So we'll find out.
This brings me to my final question, which is important also, and which is, in fact, there is unavoidably a political aspect to your work. It is a theme that it comes back in your work. You, as you pointed out in his meeting with Hans, Erwin was also very much involved I don't know if militant is the right word, but he certainly was involved with LGBT issues.
Yeah.
You, as a documentarist, as a movie maker, have addressed consistently the issues. In fact, what I find quite interesting is that with your involvement, engagement with these issues, you've seen, in fact, evolution. You haven't been doing this just for a few years. And I'd like to conclude with the question for Erwin Olaf, the legacy, how you see it in a bigger canvas of your own oeuvre. How does it fit in 2021 as a militant piece? Do you see it? Is it a militant piece? How do you feel it can be received through this evolution? Because you're part of people who have contributed to this evolution of awareness.
Well, I think I'm working as a director for 30 years, something like that, and I think in the last 5 or 10 years, my work has become very personal. It's very close to me, to my worries, and that's also why I decided that maybe it's a good thing to put more effort in the LGTB movement because there's still a lot of we have to work very hard to be equal to everybody, and So I'm very dedicated to it. And I think, well, here in Holland, I have the position, I can make everything I want in a way. And so I think, well, if you, and for now, I'm 56 and maybe I worked for 15 years and say you can make 15 films and then you're dead. Then you have to really decide very good, what are you going to make? Which projects do you put a lot of effort in? And which ones do you skip? And that's the way I look at it. That's also the way Erwin works, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And as like you told me, so my work has become, well, slightly more also about the LGBT movement. I think it's very important to speak out.
Yes, indeed. Michiel Van Erp, I want to thank you very much for sharing this with us. It's been a pleasure, although a short talk, but it's been a pleasure to hear more about your latest project, which is Erwin Olaf, The Legacy, which will be showing at the FIFA starting next week in Montreal. I hope everyone has a chance to catch it, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those out there who have been here for this conversation with Michiel, and I would like to thank as well FIFA and especially the McCord Museum in Montreal for inviting me to partake in this conversation with Michiel Van Erp.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the festival, everyone.